Namaste. Swagatam. Thanks for joining me for a body-mind refresh. So this practice that we're doing today, we're going to be seated in a chair, but we're going to move. We're going to move from head to toes and back up again. So it's great for taking a break from your desk, or if you just need to get a little bit more movement, but you need to ease into that. What you will need is a chair, and I'm going to use a little stack of blocks, but you could also use a step stool or anything that you can use to kind of prop your foot up a little bit. We're going to use socks, so take your shoes off, but have a pair of socks. And in my chair, because this chair is pretty low, and for many people, the chairs are quite low. When we sit in them, our hips go level with our knees or lower than our knees, the hip sockets. We want to elevate the chair. So you can see I just have a blanket here for a little bit of elevation. If I was sitting still, I would actually elevate my hips even higher, but we're going to be moving. So please take some time to assess what it feels like to sit in the chair with a little bit of maybe a blanket or two on that to get your hips level with or a little higher than your knees. You'll find it much healthier for your back and much easier for staying here and for moving. So gather your things and join me in the chair. So as you sit down, notice I am not sitting back in my chair, I'm sitting forward. So I'm like right at the edge of the chair, my sitting bones firmly on the blanket on the seat of the chair, but most of my legs are not touching the chair, they're free. Feet underneath the knees, so not back like this, and make sure that your heel, your whole foot is down on the floor, and that your legs are parallel. You do not need to bring them together. It's better if they're about hip width apart. So get yourself settled, let your hands rest in your lap, and just gaze downward for a moment. And take a deep breath through your nose, and sigh out your exhalation. You could do a few of those if you'd like, and then eventually just returning to normal breathing. Feel the floor underneath your feet. Feel the blanket and the chair underneath your sitting bones. Feel your hands resting on your lap, your shoulders dropping away from your ears. Your rib cage is, as you sit firmly on your chair, nice and tall, your rib cage is rising up so the shoulders can rest down around the rib cage like a saddle resting over a horse's back. Both shoulders have a collarbone and a shoulder blade forming what's called the shoulder girdle. It's kind of like a saddle, sort of. And the rib cage is like the imaginary horse. Deep breath, exhale. Feel the shoulders settle down. Good. Take your attention back behind your eyes for a moment. Even though you have them open, it's like withdrawing, like a turtle drawing its head back into the shell. And just checking in with how you feel today, physically, emotionally. Notice the state of your mind, if it's busy or sleepy or spacious and calm. Good. So with this little bit of self-connection, checking in with ourselves, we'll begin to move. So we're going to just start with the head. And I'm just doing little tiny movements as if we were nodding our head yes. Bringing the chin down and in a bit and slowly up. And I'm not doing my full range of motion right away, just some small movements to start. And getting bigger. Good. And the next time that you bring your head back and your chin up, let's pause here for a moment and open the mouth. Open and close so you can feel the jaw getting some movement. And then we'll bring the chin in and really curl inward with just the head. My spine is still upright. And back to neutral. Good. Let's do this side-to-side movement. So just small at first, little tiny movements, side to side. And with each passing, we can make it a little bit bigger, right? We'll go a little farther each time. And you might notice, little cracking and crunching and creaking noises. Your body's just saying, wow, I don't think you've moved like this in a while. Let's move a bit and work that out. Right? As long as it doesn't hurt. If something's hurting, then please stop. But many people will have creaking, crunching, snap, crackle, popping. Good. Now, when you do this side to side, just notice as you start to get to your end range of how far you can easily and comfortably turn your head, if your chin starts going up, right? I recommend, if you notice that happening, in order to turn your head, your chin goes up, don't go that far. Just go as far as you can go with the chin neutral. So just explore that for yourself. Notice, become aware. All right, and then we're going to come back to the center. And we'll do some lateral movements. So just a little, sort of almost like my head is a metronome, tick-tocking from side to side. And I'm not trying to do huge movements or get a huge stretch, and just side to side, ear toward the shoulder, and with each time you may find that it goes a little bit deeper. Right now we're just trying to get movement, a nice fluid, smooth movement. We're not going for this deep end range stretch. Make sure you're breathing in that. You're not holding your breath. Good. And then come back up. We'll come back to the head in a moment, but let's move to the shoulders. So I'm just going to let the hands rest down by my sides and remove the shoulder blades. So just about everybody, even if you have something going on with the shoulders, an injury or some discomfort of some kind, almost everybody can do these shoulder blade circles, right? And this is important, especially if you do have an injury, that you're keeping the root of the shoulder, the root of the arm, mobile, right? So this is bringing a lot of juice to the upper back, side, chest, and the front of the chest as we roll the shoulder blades up, together, down, and apart. And you breathe. Good. Let's switch directions. Making sure that you're letting yourself completely exhale. Good. And then we're going to take our fingertips to the shoulders. And we're going to do elbow circles. That's what I'm going to call them. So I'm just starting small and bring my elbows forward, out to the sides, toward the back, down, and around. Okay, so, and if this bothers your shoulder, you could go back and just repeat the shoulder blade circles. Let's make these a little bigger. Okay, seeing if you can point your elbows up, around, and back and down. Good, we'll do one more. And we're going to change directions. So, I'm kind of doing my bigger circles, but you could also do this very small, just little tiny circles. And they could spiral out and get bigger. Or if it feels better to you, just keep them small, that's what you do. Excellent. Good, and then we'll bring the arms down. Just let your hands rest on your lap. Notice how that feels. Good. So we're going to move to the knees. You might bring your feet just a little closer together, and this is where the socks come in handy. I am on a wood floor. If you're on a carpet, I don't know if you're going to slide as well. You could put a little paper plate under your foot to slide, or I've even seen people do like a plastic bag on their foot to slide. But I'm just sliding my foot back under my chair. I happen to have this sticky mat, which is not perfect because it doesn't slide on that. But I'm gliding my heel out and then back through the foot and onto the ball of the foot and as far back under the chair as I can. If whatever the situation is with your chair, if you have a bar or something, maybe we need to turn sideways on your chair to do this. But basically, we're just getting the knee flexing and extending as the foot is touching the floor, so it's sliding. So we've done a bunch, so let's rest that leg and go to the other side. So just sliding the foot back and forth. Getting a nice gliding movement. And it's nice also that the foot is staying in contact with the floor, so I'm keeping these muscles fairly, relaxed. It's not a lot of effort. Okay, and then we'll bring that leg back level with the other. And now we are going to do a little bit more work in the muscles around the thigh, which are muscles that support our knee. So we'll slide the foot out and then pressing through the heel, pushing out through the heel, lift the leg. However high you can lift it, touch back down and slide back, slide out, reach through the heel and up and back. Your hands can rest on the chair. What you want to make sure is that you don't tip your body back, all right? So sit nice and tall, slide out and up, and you don't have to lift your leg as high as I'm going. It could just be lift. Feel that work in the leg. Let's just do one more. Okay, and then come back. Notice the difference between the two sides. And we'll go with the other side. So we're sliding out. I'm reaching through the heel to lift. Landing, sliding back. And I'm not sliding back really far. I'm just sliding back in order to slide back out. Reach through the heel and lift. Make sure you breathe. Let's do maybe 2 more. I'm not really counting. I'm just kind of going by sensation in my own body, and then we'll come back. Good. Notice there's a little bit more aliveness in my legs, so notice how that feels for you. So we're going to work, kind of juice up the knee joint with this windshield wiper action. I'm keeping my thighs fairly neutral as I windshield wipe the feet, right? So it doesn't mean like they're super rigid, but it's not a movement initiated by my hips. It really is the feet. So I'm just bringing the toes towards each other and away. Right? This, it's really nourishing the menisci in the knee joint there. Now we can play and have a lot of fun. We can swish the feet together, or they can do counter movement. We could also toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, if you want to get a little fancy. We could go apart. I think we might be getting ready for the Charleston, right? Isn't there some of this in the Charleston dance? Dance move. All right, and then another thing is if I keep the ball of the foot still and take the heels out and in. Right? Keep the heels still and move the ball of the foot. Good. And then let's bring that to stillness and notice how that feels. Nice. Okay. Here's where we're going to use either our stool or a little stack of yoga blocks. Because we want to bring one foot up a little higher. And I'm going to take the sock off. And we're going to work with the toes a bit. Let's see, I think I'm going to turn this like that. Good. So what we want to be able to do is lean forward and get to our feet, okay? So this is just a suggestion. If you have another way of doing that, go for it, because what I'm trying to do is work with the toes. If it's fine for you to get your foot up here, I know this can be a knee or hip issue, you can do what I'm doing here, all right? So I'm just going to, with my hands, lift my toes up, 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 each little toe, like this little piggy, lifting them and stretching them up while the ball of the foot stays down. If you bring the foot off the edge a little bit, you can press the toes down. Okay. Good. And then we're going to see if we can put our fingers in between our toes. So there's a couple ways to do this. I'm just going to lean forward and put the tip of the finger in between, right at the top, between the tips of the toes. If you've never done this before, that's how you're going to want to kind of approach this. Eventually, you might be able to work the fingers back towards the base of the toes a bit. If you're working up here, you can go from the back with the opposite hand, from the back side of the foot, the underside, right? So at first, they can just be up here, spacing your toes apart with the tips of your fingers. And over time, maybe the fingers can go lower, or you can get the fingers almost like you're holding hands with your foot, right, to really space out the toes. Whichever one of these you can do, and I'm just going to keep my foot here like this because it might be easier for you to see, even though you may have your foot down here, is as I have my fingers between the toes, I'm going to let the toes, pretend these are my toes, squeeze my fingers. So all the toes are going to squeeze into the fingers. And then see if you can let those toes open up away from the fingers. If they are like confused and don't know what to do, you can use your fingers to help spread the toes apart and then squeeze in and spread them apart and squeeze in and spread them apart. And last time, squeezing in. Good. So let's just see if we can wiggle our toes. So if you have your foot here, you can just see if you can get all the toes to move. Everybody gets to move a little bit. Nice. And if that feels really hard to you, don't worry. But the more that you try, the more regularly that you try to get your toes moving, they will start moving. Your brain will make connections with the foot, and the toes will begin to be able to move. But it's just consistent practice. Okay, so now we're going to see if we can, you could do this with your hand, lift the big toe up, but keep the other toes down. And then with your little toes, kind of push down into your step stool and see if you can let go with that big toe up. And I suppose you could do that here as well, right? Good. Now I'm going to press the big toe down and lift the little toes up. And see if I can let go. The big toe pushing down and all the other 4 toes lifting up. Good. And if it isn't connecting in your brain, you can just hold it down there while you lift the little ones up. Push the little ones down and lift the big toe up, or just lift the big toe up while the other toes stay down. And this is making connections in your brain, so it can take a while. This is definitely a coordinating thing. Coordination. Good. Big toe down, little toes up, little toes down, big toe up. All right, so I'm just gonna slide this to the side for a moment and put the sock back on the floor and see if you can grab the sock with your toes and pull it up underneath your feet, right? You're just grabbing. You might even be able to grab it and pick it up, all right? This is great for your toes, and your toes forming the strength of the sole of the foot, right? So you can just keep kind of scrunching. Excellent. And then the opposite, we're going to put the toes down but lift the heel up, so stretching. Excellent. All right, let's go to the other side. So take the sock off, and we're going to get our toes moving. So 1 toe at a time. I'm going to lift, 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 lift. We'll do it again. Lift them all, get them all to move independently, even if it's just you doing it. Then I'm scooting my foot forward and pushing the toes 1 at a time down. And if you're able to have your foot up here, you can push, lift, and push and lift, right? So just any amount of kind of getting every toe to move is good. And then we're going to try to put our fingertips in between the toes. Right? So at first it might just be the tips of the fingers right in between the tips of the toes. Let's see if I can show you that, right? And if you're up here like this, you would do the opposite hand maybe. So that's what that would look like. Over time, maybe the fingers go a little deeper in, right? So if you're here and you have your fingertips in between, I demonstrated this the other way on the other side, so I'll demonstrate it here. We're going to take the toes and squeeze the fingers. And then see if you can spread the toes apart. And you can use your fingers to spread them apart and squeeze in and spread them apart. And squeeze in and spread them apart. And squeeze in and spread them apart. Good. And then let's try the little thing. We're going to lift the big toe up, but see if the other toes will stay down. And you can, while you hold the big toe up, activate these other toes, kind of push into the stool or the block. Right? And then see if you can let go. And then hold your big toe down and lift the other 4 toes up. And see if you can, while you're still holding the big toe down, can you kind of find that pathway muscularly, neuromuscularly, to keep the big toe pushing down while the other toes are lifting. Good. And then we can try playing. Okay, and I think I did this backwards because I think we did toe wiggling first. Doesn't matter, as long as we do all the things, right? Let's wiggle the toes. Get everybody to move. Good. I know it can be frustrating. Toes spend like a lot of their time squished into shoes like this. So suddenly we're like, hey, you have freedom. You can use it, and they just don't even know what to do. So we have to make those connections, and that's so important for our feet, but for our whole body, because that travels all the way back upwards. Our foundation really affects our legs and our hips and all the way up. Okay, let's slide the blocks or stool aside and see if we can do a little grabbing, scrunching. Scrunch up the sock. Pull it towards you. You could do this with a little towel on the floor. You can see if you can pick it up. Just keep scrunching. For a bit, you'll feel that work in the sole of your foot. And then put the ball of the foot, the toes down, and lift your heel up. It stretches the sole of the foot. And you can kind of go to the side because those little toes on the end there don't always get the stretch. Good. All right. So we put that aside and just sit with your feet on the floor. See how that feels. Good. And then we're going to lift the arms up and reach your elbows back towards the wall behind you. Like, don't bring them down, but up. And then cross in front. Try to get the elbows to cross each other. You could hug yourself. And open. Let's switch which arm was on top. Breathe in and press the elbows back. Exhale, hug. Inhale, stretch back. Exhale, hug. Good, and as we're hugging ourselves, let's do a little bit of head movement. Up and down, nodding. Soft jaw. And let's look side to side. Notice I'm keeping my elbows up off the chest. And let's do the lateral movement, ear to shoulders, ears to the shoulders. Good, and then we're going to come back up, reach your elbows back so we can switch which arm was on top. So you have to remember which one did you have on top. And other side, and nod. And turning the head side to side. And little lateral movements. And we'll come back to neutral, open up, and exhale your arms down. So just sit up tall for a moment, well aligned. Take a breath. Notice how you feel head to toe. Head and shoulders, knees and toes, just like the song. Let's just do a little breathing exercise. We're going to take a slow, full in-breath through the nose. And a slow, steady out-breath through the nose. And if you can repeat the slow breath, please do. We'll just do one after another. If you can't, if it feels anxiety-producing or uncomfortable or you're gasping for breath, just take a few rounds of normal breathing and then do another slow, full breath. The in-breath and the out-breath are about the even length. So however long it takes me in to breathe in, I'm going to take that same amount of time to breathe out. It's very smooth. We're directing the length of the breath. We're going to do a little sound. So on our out breath, the sound that I'm making with my mouth open would be E, but I'm going to keep my mouth closed. But that formation of my tongue and my throat, my mouth are happening. It doesn't sound like E when your lips are closed, but that formation, which has a very widening lateral effect, is important. So we breathe in through the nose. And just let the in-breath blossom open, full and expansive. Be sure to do this at your own pace. You don't have to keep up timing with me. And we're going to do just one more. When you're finished, be sure to take that nice full in breath. And we'll let go of the sounding. And we'll let go of directing the breath. Normal breathing, whatever that means in this moment. And we'll turn the palms up. Stretch the hands out to the side. Breathe in and bring your hands together. Exhaling, bring the hands to the heart. Take refuge in your heart. Experience a little gratitude for taking this time to refresh your body-mind and your connection to yourself. That's a huge celebration. Bow the head to the heart. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day.